Do you struggle creating a home that truly reflects your personal style? I know how you feel, but over the years, I have learned a few important lessons from some of the most renowned interior designers. And today I am so excited to share these insights with you. From thrifted finds and DIY projects to the smallest of decorating details. I'll show you how these lessons have totally changed the way I decorate my home. I hope this video will be an inspiration to you to create a home you absolutely love.
Famous interior designer David Netto once said that the best designers aren't actually designers at all. And that idea gave me, a former English teacher, a bit more confidence to trust my intuition and try new things in my home.
I'm not saying I never make mistakes. I'm just saying that you are an expert at what you like. And so have confidence in that and be willing to experiment and try things in your home. And I think you'll find that most of the time you will love the results. And so here is an example in my home where I trusted my gut and I am very happy with how it turned out. So if you have not seen my bedroom makeover, then you might not realize that there is an oddly small window in the middle of this wall. But this was where the bed really needed to be. It just didn't make sense in any other spot. And trust me, I tried it everywhere. And obviously you don't want to permanently cover up a window. I mean, that's pretty taboo. So I installed these bookcases on either side of the bed to create this center area where I could completely cover that window with drapes. And the window, again, it is very small. It's only about this wide back there. It is not as big as you think it is based on the curtains. And then I added the landscape both for interest and also to help diffuse the light coming through that window. But I have to tell you, I actually have a new idea that I am going to try in an upcoming bedroom makeover video. And if it doesn't work out, I can always go back to putting the curtains up, but I think I'm gonna like it better, so we'll see. Another time that I trusted my gut was when we went to remodel this bathroom connected to our bedroom. I had 2 or 3 contractors tell me that there just wasn't room for a separate tub, even if we stole space from the bedroom, because the chimney runs through the middle of the bathroom. But as you can see, we did make room for a separate tub, and we still have a full-size shower, the exact same size that it was before the remodel. So the only thing we really lost was that this closet used to be a double clothes closet, and now it's just a linen closet. But we didn't need the space because we already have 2 double-sized closets here, and we have 2 closets right out here in the hallway.
According to Charlotte Moss, the best rooms have something to say about the people who live in them. I've learned rooms that showcase your tastes and interests make you feel truly comfortable, inspired, and at home in your own house.
I think this library is the space in my home that best reflects my personality. So let me take you around and show you some of my favorite things. Some of you know that I am a former high school English teacher, and so this desk area with the vintage dictionaries and the antique typewriter are just a real reflection of my love of all things academic. And here is another vignette with a school theme. And this is a picture of my grandmother as a young woman when she was a school teacher. And then above this school vignette, I have a shelf that is a tribute to my favorite president, Abraham Lincoln. In case you don't know, I did grow up in Illinois and I still live in Illinois. And so he has been a lifetime hero. And then on the top shelf, another academia themed vignette, this one with a more scientific, botanical focus. This room also contains some of my favorite DIY projects that you may or may not have seen in previous video episodes, like the combination clock suitcase up on the top of the bookshelves. I actually made that in a video that was the very first time I had ever collaborated with anybody else who was also on YouTube. And you might remember this old clock that I converted into a miniature office.
I love the little rug I made. Too bad I can't make a full-size one.
I was so proud of myself when I turned this old dictionary into a desk light. And then I was surprised when a very famous YouTuber did a similar project about a month later. And of course, the vintage hurricane lamp bases that I converted into Victorian vivariums is one of my all-time favorite thrift flips.
Maybe the best decorating advice I ever heard came from Bunny Williams. If you like it, it's in style. And Karl Lagerfeld famously said, "Trendy is the last stage before tacky." It's fun to follow trends, but I'm learning that my personal style is more important than what's currently in style.
In 2013, this house was for sale, and I attended an open house. I came in the front door and I saw these French doors. And then I saw the plaid fabric on these walls, and I knew right then I had to have this house. But you know what else happened in 2013? Chip and Joanna Gaines' show Fixer Upper premiered. And like the rest of America, I was enamored with Joanna's modern farmhouse style. And so within a year or two, I wanted to rip this fabric down. And luckily, one of the things that kept me from doing it is that these walls are actually padded. I don't know if you can see that, but I actually found some of the padding in a cabinet, and it consists of 6 by 6 inch plastic squares that are padded. So the thought that this wall, that all these walls were covered in hundreds of those little plastic squares that were either glued or nailed to the wall was pretty frightening. And so I never pulled the trigger and took the fabric down. And now I am so glad that I didn't, because the truth was I loved this plaid fabric. I just knew that it wasn't trendy, and I didn't want people who came into my house to think, oh my gosh, what a dated living room that is. So once I decided to embrace the already out of style plaid walls, I figured I don't need to worry about what's trending. I am just going to decorate this room with whatever I like. And one thing I like is a lot of pattern. So I purchased these 2 chairs at the Habitat Restore because I thought they would complement the plaid walls nicely, even though I know most people would have selected neutral covered chairs to help tone down the walls. You guys know I love to start my day with a magic mind. It's a mental performance shot made from natural ingredients, clinically proven to support a sharper mind, reduce stress, and improve energy. And you can trust their ingredients because Magic Mind rigorously tests their ingredients every production run, and they'll happily provide certificates of analysis to anyone who requests them. Since I started taking Magic Mind, I've drastically reduced my caffeine intake from coffee, and I've almost totally eliminated soda from my diet. I also love that Magic Mind comes in these small individual doses with nothing to mix up. So it's super easy to toss one in my purse or suitcase to use when I'm not at home. So if you are ready to give Magic Mind a try, use the link in my description box and the code COTTAGE20 to get 20% off your order.
Most designers are big fans of incorporating antiques and vintage items. Nate Berkus said thrift store gems and salvage items add layers of history and tell a story that is uniquely yours. And Billy Baldwin summed it up perfectly when he said, "Antiques are the spice in the stew." A few of the old things in my home are genuine antiques, but most are just vintage. Some of my favorite older items include a stained glass window, a sewing machine cabinet, a footboard for a twin bed that I'm using as a fireplace screen, a radio that was turned into a lamp, and cottage prints that were my grandpa's. Probably the oldest items in my home are these colored engravings by Richard Blome, circa 1685. I bought them about 11 years ago, and I remember specifically because I almost didn't buy them because at the time they were asking $4.99, which I thought was too pricey. So imagine my surprise when I did a little research and discovered that they're over 300 years old. I totally agree with Nate Berkus, who values items with age and patina over perfectly new ones. I started thrifting when I was a broke college student, and although I admired the beautiful antiques in perfect condition, I could only afford the items that needed makeovers. So that's when I started learning how to repair, refinish, and paint things. Today, I could afford antiques in pristine condition, but they don't interest me much anymore. Now I love aged and worn items. I think they add texture and depth and authenticity. Antiques in perfect condition often look exactly like a modern reproduction. I'm obviously a huge fan of using DIY projects in my home. They're not only budget friendly, but they add unique character and a personal touch that truly reflects your personal style.
My current favorite DIY is my makeover of this main floor powder room, which was featured in last week's video. So if you haven't watched it, you really need to check it out because you will not believe how plain and boring this bathroom was just a couple weeks ago. This upstairs bathroom is also one of my favorite DIYs. Since this tile is original to our 1962 house, it is actually set in about 2 or 3 inches of concrete, making it almost impossible to remove without completely demolishing the entire bathroom. And so I actually painted the tiles. I painted them here in the tub, and I painted the tub. All of these tiles were a very ugly, fleshy peach color before. I painted these fixtures black as well, and I actually brushed that paint on. I did not spray it on. And as you can probably tell, I made this shower curtain out of a thrift store chenille bedspread. So the tiles that I installed on this faux fireplace will probably always be one of my favorite DIYs because I had never seen anybody else do anything like it. These are actually cheap. I believe I paid 7 cents each for these white tiles. And then I printed out these vintage Delft images and decoupaged them to the tile. And because it is a faux fireplace, I actually installed them with just white caulk rather than using mastic, which would have made the front of the fireplace extra heavy and potentially cause a tip over. And we do use this fireplace in the winter, and it gets quite hot, but the decoupage paper and the caulk has held up perfectly. Originally, when this house was built, there was a vanity slash desk in this little nook. And during one of my bedroom makeover videos, I converted it into this window seat, which I am really happy with. And I made the little curtain and the pillow out of some thrift store fabric. Two of my favorite DIYs are here in the dining room, and the first one is this big cabinet behind me. This started as a dark green entertainment center from the 1990s that I purchased at the Habitat Restore. And I took off the doors, I added shelves in here, and removed a shelf that had been for a VCR and TV. And of course, I painted it white and blue to display my chinoiserie collection. If you're a subscriber to my channel, then you probably already guessed that the second thing I was going to mention in the dining room is this grandfather clock, which, believe it or not, was a curb find. The clock itself is battery operated, so I was able to remove the pendulum and install shelves to turn this into a little display area. And the clock does still work, although apparently it needs a fresh battery.
Currently, minimalist interiors are trending. People are so proud of their organized, uncluttered spaces. And if that's what speaks to you, then that is what you should do. But it's not for me, and it took me a long time to gain the courage to admit that I like to be surrounded by lots of pretty things. So I want you to know it's okay to have a lot of stuff. If you're a maximalist, you're never going to feel at home in a house with very little decor. And you need to know that maximalism isn't just about filling your home with things you love. It's also about intentional curation and layering so everything looks cohesive and not cluttered.
So don't be afraid to admit that you agree with Iris Apfel, that more is more and less is a bore. Unless, of course, you're a minimalist, in which case less is more.
I think it's common knowledge that professional designers love expensive, original artwork. So I was surprised to learn that there are actually many designers that love gallery walls and wallpaper used in artistic ways. Knowing this only reaffirms my decision to create gallery walls in the stairwell and main floor powder room of my home, and to hang wallpaper in a number of rooms throughout the house. Now with peel and stick wallpaper, hanging wallpaper doesn't have to be a lifetime commitment. You might be surprised to know that many designers like us enjoy displaying collections in their decor. Things like vintage pieces, sentimental items, and books not only tell a story, but they also create visual interest through repetition, texture, and color. I like to collect blue and white china, strawberry dishes, vintage clocks, and of course, books. I started collecting books when I was about 30 years old. I bought a used bookcase from an elderly lady, and she insisted that I had to take all the dusty books that were on it, which I did not want. But I took them and I placed them around my house. And then I realized how much warmth and texture they added to my home. So I just kept buying them. I totally agree with Rose Tarlow that one-of-a-kind pieces create a space that feels curated and full of character rather than mass-produced. They can also serve as interesting focal points and conversation starters. I'd rather people say that my house is unique, rather than saying it's stylish. Because I feel like if you have enough money, you can buy stylish, but you can't buy interesting.
For example, this old clock is not in very good condition, but it came out of a 19th century insane asylum, which is pretty famous in the area where I live.
So it's a definite conversation starter. Another thing I've learned in recent years is that seemingly minor details can impact your home more than you think. Carefully chosen hardware, beautiful paint finishes, and trim work can elevate a space from ordinary to extraordinary. Personally, I really like to swap out inexpensive light fixtures and switch plates to add a little pizzazz to a room. And I adore this vintage style radiator cover. I also like to add little surprises throughout my home for guests to discover, even on the ceiling. I know today's video was different from what I usually do, so if you're still here, thank you. I really hope you found some inspiration for your own decorating journey. And if you did, please let me know which idea you found most helpful. I know for me, it has to be Bunny Williams' quote, "If you love something, it will work. That's the only real rule."